Welcome to the podcast with your favorite cash flow guys, Mike and Blaine, giving you the best advice while having a beer. When you're running a business, there are problems every day. Let Mike and Blaine help you out and guide your way. Cheers to the good times with Mike and Blaine for business, beer, and BS.
Hey, it's episode 179. I'm Mike Mylan. That is Blaine Birch. You are listening to Mike and Blaine, Business, Beer, and BS. What's going on, man?
Number 179. Late February. I can't believe it's late February. It feels like January still, and we're almost at March.
Is that crazy? Courtney said that January went super slow. I'm like going, you're the only one that it went slow for. I mean, Speaking of, I've gotten mesmerized on social media with these people who say that there are timeline switches.
Like I've never heard of that.
like we moved to a different timeline X number of years ago because X, Y, or Z has happened. I'm like, huh. and part of it is the time is sped up on this timeline where it wasn't sped up before. And then they go back and they try to connect that Mandela effect to it. Have you ever seen that? You know what the Mandela effect is?
I haven't even heard of it. No.
All right. So, man, I'm going to tell you what, I've just really ruined your next week of work. Just with those two things right there, because that's the topic of today is, I should be working, because I just gave you two major rabbit holes to go down, switching timelines and Mandela effect. All right. So, you're familiar with like Pikachu, Pokemon, that type of thing?
I've heard of them.
What that one character, Pikachu, you know what it is? All right, you don't know that?
I've heard of them. I don't really know what it is though. Yeah.
What do you think that looks like? The yellow character. What does that look like? Can you remember? Can you think about it?
Kinda a Chihuahua.
Oh yeah, but it's yellow. Are there other colors on it? No, see, you don't know. You're terrible at that.
Yeah, I have no idea.
All right, describe to me the Fruit of the Loom logo.
I think it's just a fruit, isn't it? Like a bunch of fruit, like
just a bunch of fruit
stuff.
Yeah.
Bunch of fruit.
Is there a cornucopia on it or not?
I don't think so, but I can't remember.
You're from the new timeline, not the old timeline. Because they merged. Two timelines merged. Some of us remember it one way, and some of us remember it a different way.
Are you sure they didn't just rebrand at some point?
They said they didn't. But half the people that I talk to will think that the logo looks like grapes and apples and different fruit with a cornucopia, right? That big cone, and half the people will say, no, it doesn't have that. It just has the fruit.
Yeah. That would not be two timelines. That's
it's two timelines. They've merged. Half the people know.
Yeah,
where do you think your heart? All right. So where do you think your heart is located?
Anyway.
All right. So one more. Where do you think your heart is located?
I'm slightly left of center down here.
Used to be when in the old timeline, it was left. In the new timeline, it's dead center. So, and we're on the new timeline right now. So it's dead center.
A lot of stuff that's very easy to explain. And first of all, I'm not totally sure I believe that just because someone said it doesn't make it true. But
Look up pictures.
If you say things like picture a bowl of fruit, because it's fruit. Let's say the Fruit of the Loom logo, right? It's fruit. So when you picture fruit and you start picturing things, it all starts getting jumbled up, and you start picturing, is it fruit or is it a bowl of vegetables, and these things start to get mixed up because you don't remember it exactly. And so I think it's all pretty straightforward ways people remember things and access from their random memory in the back here.
All right. So if you're totally confused on what the hell's going on in this podcast, because this is not normally how this thing starts,
but you are either.
You are listening to Mike and Blaine, Business Beer and BS. And I tell you what we do is we talk a little bit about business. We talk a little bit about beer. We talk a little bit about BS. And we got a healthy dose of BS right off the bat. But I went there because I don't know what's happened to me this week. I went down a couple of different rabbit holes. And I'm like going, am I avoiding work? Is that what I'm doing? Am I avoiding work for some reason? So, hey, to kick us off, what are you drinking, man?
Well, what's interesting is I got a great story about that too. So I've a good topic for this week. So I just went into the fridge and I grabbed the Resident Culture. Okay, this might be the old timeline thing again. Resident Culture, ripped by reality, Munich style Dunkel lager.
We didn't even talk about that.
No, I just grabbed it out of the fridge, and I grabbed it like based on the topic of I should be working. But this whole alternate timeline thing, like the rip by reality, that was just like a fluke, to be honest. But it's nice beer.
That is crazy.
Excellent beer. Excellent beer. I'm not even sure where they're located. North Carolina, I think. Excellent brewery. There you go.
All right. So, hey, we got beer sponsors too, right? So we got beer sponsors, but I'll tell you what happened with my beer today. Running late. I got stuck in a rabbit hole looking at Mandela Effect.
All right.
Realized I didn't have any beer for the podcast. I'm like, oh, I don't have time to run out. Excuse me. I don't have time to run out. So I ordered from Favor, right? And had beer delivered. I ordered because we're in this weird part of the year. It's like between March Madness, the basketball tournament isn't here. Baseball season just started. But football season is over, so it's like a weird part of the year for me, right? Because it was the NHL and basketball. No, it was All-Star break, so it was a weird. It's this weird Four Nations thing. The only thing good there is the fighting.
I won't get into that, but BS part, I am hating that because I'm so nervous that McDavid will get injured the whole entire time. I don't even care. I'm like, I don't care who wins, just don't hurt McDavid because the Stanley Cup means everything. This means nothing. But anyway, that's my own opinion.
But it's the All-Star break, though, and people kind of tune out just a little bit. But,
yeah.
So, but anyway, the XFL, is that right? UFL, what? I don't know, whatever that new football league is. San Antonio has a team called the Brahmas, and I saw one of their beers came out. It's like the San Antonio Brahmas, beer or whatever, and I'm like, oh, that's what I ordered. What I got instead was the Travis. So I'm like, well, you didn't even ask me to switch. You just brought me this guy won't give a shit. Just give him beer.
So did you order Brahma in the old timeline?
I think I did. In the old timeline, I must have, or I'm on the old timeline and she's on the new timeline, and that's the translation of it. Is I was ordering from the old version of the website,
and I don't even know what you're talking about with that, but I'm just.
So anyway, I have no idea, but this actually, now that I'm looking at it, see the guy with it's kind of I don't know. It's not a bowler hat. I don't know what type of hat that is.
Sort of.
All right.
Yeah.
But in the clothing, one of the ways I've been distracted this week, I'm 54 years old, but I'm getting drug in all of a sudden back to this game, Fallout 4. And Fallout 4 has been around for like 7-8 years. I already played through it once. I'm like, I'm going to pick that up again. Now I'm getting sucked into hours like at night. I'm like, I'm spending like hours on that. Well, I mean, that could be a character that you could create and wear his clothes in Fallout 4. So don't judge me. I played PlayStation. Not a lot. And I haven't even touched PlayStations in months, years. And all of a sudden it's just like an itch. I got a scratch.
I think the only PlayStation game I got sucked into was what is it called? Not Portal. Now, I don't know if you ever played that game. It's like a puzzle game, but where you like shoot holes in the walls and you can go through anyway, it's a neat game. It's really neat, but that was like probably 10, 15 years ago. I think those are when we actually, I think we still own a PlayStation. Technically, it probably hasn't been turned on in 10 years. So, but
got it. Well, so that's Alamo Brewery. The Travis is what I got today instead of the beer I ordered. So
Nice.
Anyway, we also have beer sponsors, right?
Yes.
So we got Karen over at 3S Smart Consulting, Karen Hairston, 3S Smart Consulting. We were just on a meeting together, as a matter of fact, a little bit ago. So if you want to improve cash flow, find hidden cash in your business, and I think she's in Michigan. So if you're looking for somebody local in Michigan, Karen Hairston, 3S Smart Consulting, go check her out.
And Rachel Barnett of Gentle Frog. So if you want to learn how to use QuickBooks, if you own a small business, you need to talk with Rachel, but also go to Rachel's YouTube channel. It's just YouTube at Gentle Frog, and you will find a ton of videos that are going to help you learn QuickBooks. So thanks again, Rachel. She's a sponsor till the end of the year. Karen Hairston, she's also to the end of the year. So that's super cool.
All right. And then we got Devin over at LSU. He's still going strong. So, Devin, I tell you what, this guy, you think you're an LSU fan. You think you're a college fan. You're not, right? You cannot put yourself up against Devin and expect any type of recognition as a college fan or an expert until you are living LSU or your college the way he does. So, thanks, Devin, for supporting the show. Appreciate you, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I'm going to thank neighbor Pat for you, because you always give him shit. And I'm always appreciative. I'm more appreciative of Pat bringing you beer than I think you are. So thank you, Pat. I'll thank you for Mike.
There you go. Hey, somebody, weather is like January as well. Is that Patrick? Is that, it must be Pat.
Yep.
Pat. Well, okay, so that's it. Pat, you're right. It was like in the 20s, and then wind chill was like super crazy, but it does not get that cold here. Yeah. Now next week it's in the 70s, so don't feel bad yet. We had like this cold streak come through. Don't know what happened, but yeah, it's been cold, super cold.
Well, I know it's been epically cold up in Canada in our neck of the woods, because I keep hearing about it. It's like we hear from either my parents or my in-laws or my staff, and everyone comes in and is like, it is so cold. And it was slightly coolish, like a couple of weeks ago. It was like maybe high 60s here in Scottsdale, but now it's really warm and sunny and beautiful. So it's hard to even imagine cold weather, to be honest. But it's perfect weekend, and it's just nice and warm now. So
have you ever picked up a beer can and it just not feel right in your hands? Like, there's something wrong with this thing. It's like, all right, there's something. All right,
that's a non-standard height of a beer can.
Look at that. And not only that,
it's a tall one, but that is taller. I can tell just by looking at it that it's actually kind of too tall. Is it a non-standard width?
No, but look, it's 19.2 ounces. Who in the hell has a 19.2? It's tall and skinny.
Yeah. Tall and skinny. This is 16 ounce. This is the regular pint can. So weird.
I was like, what the hell's wrong with this can?
That whole thing came from the other timeline, or the Mandela effect. I don't even know what the Mandela effect is. I just said that. I just said that about, I don't know what's wrong with this can. And you ever seen the movie The Jerk with Steve Martin? He goes, yes.
And the sniper's trying to take him out, and he keeps shooting at him at the gas station, and he's hitting the oil cans, and he goes, "Oh my God, he doesn't like the cans."
The new phone book's out. Oh boy, anyway. I haven't seen that in so long, but I do remember that show. Steve Martin was classic. He's
all right. So if you want to be a beer sponsor, you can just go to mikeandblaine.com and buy us a beer. It will be the best $5 you've ever spent, right? Because it's evergreen, it lives forever, and we say just about anything you want us to say, unless you're the other Mike Mylan or neighbor Pat. Then I say whatever I want to.
Yeah, but generally, we will feature. We'll talk about you, your business, whatever it is. $5 a week, and you know what? We started that years ago as a bit of a gag, and we haven't kind of followed inflation. Still $5. So go to Blaine, mikeandblaine.com, buy us a beer, and also make sure you like, subscribe, follow. And I always like to say it at the start, because we're about to dive into some serious business talk, or not.
All right. So you said it was a good topic for the week, and I want to hear your story. Let me tell you how I got there. I got this fallout kick going right now, and I think it's the coldness, because usually I like to just be outside and do other things, but I think it's the cold. And it feels good. But as I'm sitting here, I'm finding myself this week doing other things. Matter of fact, like I've even started to get my coffee, and I'll have a second cup of coffee before I come into the office. It's like going, I just need a little bit more coffee before I go to work, right? And I'm like going, what the hell's wrong with me this week? I'm just like avoiding work because I know. Here's my thing: I'm avoiding the fact that I know I'm involved with some big projects that require some focus, and well, there's a lot of work to it. So like I have to kind of be ready to go to work when I come in here.
Yeah. Right now, like we kicked it off in January here. And we'll be sprinting till about the last week of July when it'll slow down a little bit. And so right now we're total sprint. So I can't get distracted. I just come in, go, and then power through to the day. But the thing that when I saw the topic, what came to mind immediately, and I think there's a lesson in here that I sometimes forget. On Monday, it was President's Day down here in the US, but I know a lot of people work on President's Day. You could tell because it was just busy out there. But we had a statutory holiday in Canada. And so the whole team's off. Technically it's a day off. And so I thought, well, I'm going to take the day off, but I almost didn't. I kept feeling like basically super guilty. I'm like, I got so much to do. 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 I got to do this, got to do that. And then I finally decided, you know what? I think I could use a mental break. It's not like I felt like, okay, it's good for me to take a day off. So I took the day off. We hop on our bikes. And I think I was in work mode in my brain, but then I hopped on a bike and we start riding across town. And it's a lesson I've learned so many times that the stuff I was going to do all day, I don't know if I would have been very effective at. It was all messaging, positioning kind of stuff. Start riding my bike and that subconscious starts to take over. And then it creeps into your conscious. And then all of a sudden, we stop and grab a little bite and that. And I'm like, I figured a bunch of stuff out, messaging wise. And I even took a few notes and I'm like, that wouldn't have happened, I bet, if I was sitting in the office, because there's other distractions and you're trying to focus, but it was that getting that sort of subconscious involved somehow made it super effective. So I think I got more done on the day I took off biking than I would have if I'd stayed in the office all day.
Well, it's funny you talk about that. I mean, where just that break in the stress, the cloudiness, the haze, whatever it is. And I've heard you tell that story before about riding your bike and it just things pop into your head. Yep. And I think, believe it or not, I don't think we've talked about it in a year or so, that particular example. But
yeah,
I remember the last time you said that, something else popped into my head after the episode. I'm like going, holy shit, that's been around forever. Sir Isaac Newton, you know him?
Yep.
Yeah, the law of gravity, that's where it started.
Yep.
Yeah, that's him, taking a break. He was getting out from whatever the hell he was doing. He says, I'm going to walk through the garden here, walk through the orchard. And he sat down next to a tree. And he's just kind of sitting there, and an apple falls on his head, and he discovers gravity. I mean, does he do that if he didn't take that break?
Yeah. I think it's true, because I think you have to get out of your own head, let your subconscious do some lifting for you. But I think there's something to do with having new stimuli too, that activates your brain. And like I said, I've talked about this before, how effective it is to hop on my bike. And what I used to do was I would try and hop on my bike and do a quick ride in the afternoons. I'm too busy. I don't take the time. I go walk in the morning, walk in the evenings. A lot of times we bike on the weekends, but it was a really good reminder that there's other ways to be really effective. And when you're trying to do a brain problem solving sort of activity, I'll try and remember that it's like, no, actually book off the time to hop on the bike and do a run. And this was a really good reminder that it can be ultra effective. At least for me, it's really effective. It's like, it just is like unlocking a dam And it was a really good reminder, and it was super effective. So,
yeah. So help me reconcile that with, you work with guys that write code. At Finnegraph, we had a whole room full of, people that wrote code, and they talk about this flow state, right? When you get into flow, and the break actually causes you to really lose productivity. What you're talking about is an increase in productivity, where the opposite could be true is when you're in this flow state, which means you're in, like, think about these guys are writing hundreds of lines of code and things are kind of segmented. I mean, anything that you do, you can, especially if it's detailed work, you're focused on it, you're in it. And all it takes is somebody to say, hey, can you come here a second? And you go like this, turn around, come back, and you're like, okay, where was I? What? And they said it took almost 20 minutes to recapture the same flow state after you were broke out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I could see that. I can relate to that. Now I'm going back a long way, but I can relate to that when I first started out as a designer, and you get into the flow, same thing of it's the detail and it's the task and it's the craft, and you get into a zone, and it's like autopilot. Everything's working and ticking, and you never want to break that. But what I'm talking about is sort of the opposite, whereas it's a high level sort of strategy, 30,000 foot view. The opposite is when it's task driven, and you get into that zone and you just go, right?
And that's what I asked. Help me reconcile it. And you said, okay, the more detailed the task is and you're in it, a distraction or a break actually is a hindrance. Whereas if it's more strategic, not tactical, more strategic, then a break actually might help you see it clearer.
But keep in mind here, though, like if I actually thought about it, when my brain's being effective was those those long pedaling straight away. You get to an intersection or a light, you're taken out of the zone. Like, so it's kind of a little bit of the same thing. You're taken out of that mental zone, and you're like, okay, here's that stopping point. And then you get going again, and then it starts to pick up and gain that momentum. So if I was in super heavy traffic and you're watching like cars and like pedestrians, everything the whole time, not going to be effective. So I think there's that place where it's like you get it. Both of them, that what's similar in both cases is you get into a rhythm and you just let the brain run, and it can't be interrupted. It just goes and goes and goes. Unfortunately, on our ride, we get on these bike paths, and some of them are super long and just stretch out, and you don't have any stopping points.
Yeah. Well, that's where you always think that, these folks that are writing code, you always walk into like those tech shops and they all got their headphones on. They're, focused on the thing. The headphones aren't because they're hip and trendy and just, antisocial. It's because every distraction breaks up what they're trying to do, and then they don't want to lose that line of thought.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see that.
So I want you to use headphones. Hell, I'll buy the headphones if you can get more work done today.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think everyone has to find out what works for them. And these are all good suggestions to try, but you just have to find out what works well for you. What gets you, if you're doing a task and you need that rhythm, what gets you into it and keeps you there? Like if I'm doing something in here, like, and I'm just got to get through it. And you get, throw on an old record. That does get me to stand up every once in a while, though. Go flip the record over. But I think that's important too, to get moving a bit.
What's funny is that some people will say that sleeping does the same thing. Oh, if I just relax and rest, and then sometimes it helps me come to my mind. And people have woken up. I've woken up and wrote down ideas like, oh shit, it just came to me right out of the sleep. Yeah. I'm going to give people caution. If you do that, really proofread what you did. Because, in your dream, anything could happen. You're like, wait a second. I can't fly. Step 2 means I had to fly from here to there. Like, I can't do that. Why did I think that was a good idea last night?
It's only so effective.
Yeah. So make sure you don't skip steps like that, that are unrealistic. I mean, that's AI does that shit all the time. it will make up things like crazy. I mean, I was trying to get it to help me with a journal entry, right? And it kept telling me the same thing. I'm like going, no, you can't do it that way, because if you do it double counting the revenue, right? Or double counting the expense. Mm-hmm. And it goes, oh, you're right. Let me show it to you this way. And it would say the same thing with just a couple different words. I'm like, no, it's the same thing. So it doesn't know accounting yet. So don't use it to do some of your journal entry stuff, or it's going to be wrong, right?
It's not good at everything. It is kind of funny how much, like almost how impatient I am with it. It's like it could do so much and within seconds and take out like an hour's worth of work. And then it does one little thing that like I don't like. And I'm like, oh, that's stupid. Why would you want to rephrase it that way? That's really not, I just get my patience is just so short.
Okay. So we're trying to finish this office out, like kind of like a speakeasy, right? And Courtney has an idea above my desk right here of a large oil painting, right? But what she wants it is like a speakeasy type bar with two silhouettes. She and I kind of look like she and I, like at the bar in this place. But you can't see our faces. You just know it's two people, and, it's similar to our shapes. Okay. Mine's round. Hers is skinny and hot. So, but anyway, this is another way I was distracted. I spent, I'm going to say an hour just trying to create this image with AI, to be able to give somebody, the opportunity to create this oil painting for us. Right.
Yeah.
And I bet I created 15 different versions only because AI argued with me. It kept because I said the word speakeasy, because I wanted the ambiance and the look of a speakeasy. Because I said that, it kept putting a hat on me, like the bowler hat, like this, like Travis hat, right? I would have this, fedora or something like that. I'm like going, no, the man should not have a hat. No hat on the man. And it says, oh, you're right. And we go back and go, here's one with no hat. And I'm going, that one has a hat. that one also has a hat. And it says, okay, well, here's one without a hat. And the third or fourth time that it responded to me, it put no in capital letters, like going, here's one with no hat, like yelling at me. I'm like going, do you not know what a hat is? Are you having a hard time understanding hat? The only way I could get it to take the hat off is say, give the man a short haircut parted on the left side. And then it didn't give me a hat. Is that the weirdest thing? Like, I say, no, someone had it. It doesn't have a hat.
Yeah. It's funny what sort of gaps are in there. Hey, like it's just, yeah. There's still a ways to go. People are freaking over AI, and it's like it's got a lot of growing pains ahead of it, and I think it's going to be really useful and insightful. I don't think it's out to take over 90% of jobs tomorrow. Like it's just not quite there yet.
Do you know that it ignored my question? Do you not know what a hat is? It just ignored it. Because that still has a hat on it. Maybe you don't know what it is. So funny. But that I spent an hour during work hours, and then I distracted her because I'm texting her like different options. So think about it. Not only did I ruin my day, but I ruined hers too with her own idea.
Well, yeah, that probably wasn't the most productive time. I just I sort of envy you a little bit because I honestly just don't think I'm going to have that. It'll be July before I've got that a week or two where it's like, kind of just mentally unplug for a bit.
All right. So realize this, February, March are the slowest times of the year for me. My ideal client is accountants, bookkeepers, those type of folks that are heavily involved with tax and tax strategy or bookkeeping to give it to the CPA for tax. Everybody's just heads down doing something because of a deadline, right? And it's a really condensed time period, like January 31st to April 15th. So for me, that's the time I build. I create, I do content, I do website upgrades, I do, build out on the roadmap for the app. Mm-hmm. That's how I try to use the time. But that's why, because I'm not dealing with customers and clients and sales calls and those type of things, I'm like going, I wonder how a giraffe sleeps. I
can feel that too. We deal more with CFOs regularly, but they're still in that, right? And so it's slower. It's harder to get meetings right now, but everything's been piled up over the last couple months. So I know I have so much I got to get through. That it's the stress and pressure that's keeping me going.
Yeah, well, I mean, but I can't be the only one that does that. Like, I've seen my clients; they will spend 37 hours on a spreadsheet that they'll never use. Perfect formatting, perfect, formulas and those type of things, and then not use it. They're like, it doesn't do what I need it to, and then they'll blow it off. I'm like, going, dude, what happened to all that time? Now you're not even going to use a spreadsheet, right? Or logos or designs. They'll do different iterations and they'll go back and forth and just hours upon hours. Or, it's where perfect becomes the enemy of good, right? It's like, hey, it's good enough. Then move on. It doesn't get me 1,000 more sales because the logo is green and not red.
Yeah. That could be a topic in itself. Perfect is the enemy of good. Or, is that what we said? That's a good
I think that's what I said. Yeah, that's what I
said. That might be next week's topic because it's a good one. Yeah.
All right. So what is your time suck then? What is it that sucks your time from you?
Like I've been working, sort of the remote, like in a remote office for a lot of years. And it's just the way I mentally so in the morning, I'm relaxed. I'm having my cup of coffee and then the clock flips over and I sprint through the day. And at the end of the day, then I'm like, crash because my head just is done. And so I'm very, I've been doing it for so many years. I just don't find that I get a lot of distraction during the day. Like I'll do a quick lunch, but then when I'm done, I'm done and I just go. And it's the way my brain operates. I can sprint through stuff, but when I'm done and my brain's mush, I'm done. Like I can tell I hit a wall.
So you don't turn around and put a record on every once in a while, like, and flip through your records like during the day. Right. So that's like not working. That's because the way you say it makes you sound like a robot. No, I sit down at this desk and I sprint until I fall asleep.
But that's more like, I don't do any, like I just work, right? Like what I love about the record player is if I don't have it, I don't do it. I don't get up. I sit and I'm hunched over and I'm, but what I will say is I don't flip through all the records. Like I'll get up, it gets me to get up. I flip the record over. I started playing, but I'll tell you, sometimes I'll flip that same record over 5 times because then I sit back down, go. And I don't even there's music, but I don't register it almost. Right. But I like it because it gets me to stand up. I will say that sometimes though, when I get up and I go to flip the record over, I'll be like, I should just go grab a glass of water or something. And it gets me like to just move a little bit because I think it's not healthy to sit and just be like dialed in, for a day. It's the way I don't know. Like I can't, if I had a story, I would, but I'm like, I don't seem to get a lot of distractions. I just sort of go and then I flip the record and come back, sit down and I go again. Like, I don't know. It's just how I'm wired, I guess.
All right. So I'm definitely not like that. I'm trying to build a lifestyle friendly business. And if you want to help yourself build a lifestyle friendly business, check out my programs at cashflowmike.com. It's an odd week, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that's what we do, right? We unlock hidden cash, we find hidden cash, we optimize cash flow, and put more money in your pocket by building transferable value. What's transferable value? It's having enough money to do whatever it is you want to do next. That's what I help business owners do. So check out my programs at cashflowmike.com.
Yeah. Do that because I've talked with, I'm talking with CFOs every day, right? And a lot of them are fractional CFOs too. And I hear a lot of stories about the struggles that their clients are facing. And it is a challenging time out there. It's a lot more challenging than it's been in years. Even when COVID first hit and that, it's like shit's hitting the fan now. Has for last year, probably will for the next couple of years. You need to have a grip on that. And so if you've been around for a lot of years and it's like, oh yeah, no, it's a little bit more of the same, make sure you understand what's happening in your business. And what you do, Mike, is that's the way you understand what's truly happening in your business and uncover some of those big gaps that, a lot of times for a lot of businesses, those big gaps aren't putting money in your pocket. It's keeping your business alive, for some of you out there. So make sure you go and check that out at cashflowmike.com. So
there you go. So, hey, I'm just over here trying to stick to my knitting, right? Just do my thing. Stay in my warehouse. So I find that, interesting how disciplined you are, right? Because I don't think that's normal. I like to think of myself as a pretty disciplined person, right? Because I get a lot of work done, but I mean, I'm the type of guy I sit down, hammer it out, go to the next thing. But I'm kind of in and out. I can kind of fade in and out because I'll even break from the desk here. I'm the guy that has I need a little bit of a walk excuse, right? And I'll walk around the yard, take the dog out, I go outside and not think about work and not take a phone call. I'll just go out there. Sometimes I'll just stare up the street, see if Pat's moving, see what's happening over there. Yeah. But for me, I think getting out of this office more often helps me be more productive when I'm in the office, right? It's just like, for years, I wouldn't have a TV in the bedroom because I thought it hurt my ability to fall asleep, right? Some people can have the TV on. That's the only way they can go to sleep.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, so
100%. Yeah.
But here in this office, I want, just like I treat the bedroom, like I'm in there for a couple different reasons. One of them, sleep. Then this office, I want it to be the same way. When I come in here, I want like a whole personality shift when I walk through the door, like going, oh, this is the place you work, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't do a lot of extracurricular in here. Even though I got a PlayStation sitting right there, I don't use it. I will go into the other room where I normally do relaxing type stuff and do the PlayStation in the other room because I don't want this to be the place where I'm comfortable doing that. I want to be comfortable in front of this computer working on the things I need to get done every day.
Yeah. I used to have a guitar sitting back here in my office and I never played it because I wouldn't play it. It could sit there forever. I would never play it while I'm in here. So it's the opposite. It's not even a distraction. I wouldn't play it. And when I leave the office at the end of the day, I need that mental break. And so I moved the guitar out into the other room and I play it every night. Right. Like it's totally changed, moving it 100 feet. And it's totally changed everything. And I don't think this is how a lot of other people might be wired, but that's the best way that I can explain it is my brain, like I sprint, I just come in, go. And I have stuff to do. I don't seem to it doesn't take a lot of time to wind it up and go. But then when I hit the end of the day, I hit the wall and there's a point where I can just tell them like, and it could be a single minute. And I'm like, nope, done. Brain mush. And then I leave the door, I close the door to the office and I don't come back in. I try not to do any more work. So I try and keep my evenings and weekends free because I know what my brain is like. I can't shut it off. But you also mentioned like I have to have a TV because all the sleep experts say, hey, you have to have a dark, quiet room. Oh, really? You know what happens when it's dark and quiet? It's like a freaking chainsaw firing up. Like the brain won't shut down. It's like a fire hose, right? So if I get something on it's kind of funny, it's got to be sort of boring but interesting enough, I'll pay attention to it, and I'll fall asleep. then once I'm asleep, I can shut it off. Wake up, I'll shut it off, and I can fall back asleep.
Like occasionally, I'll turn the TV on, but I'll watch like it's the dumbest show right now that I've put on the last few nights. It's like Secrets of the Interrogation Room. It's like real videos of people being
after that.
Yeah, but it's so monotone, right? It's so monotone. The person's dissecting what's happening. Oh, it's like it's the same droned out voice after a second. And it's just like, I'm out. I'm out. So, and the interrogation room interests me because, former law enforcement, right? So it's one of those things. So, hey, I had a person work for me that I think used like fake work to always look busy. And the way I described them in a sentence one day was, you're always busy, but you're never doing anything. You ever had a person like that? Or I know it's not you, but you're way too disciplined for that. But it's like going,
a bit like a government worker. I should say that. I get flamed for that, but that's my perception.
It was in my first company, a janitorial company, right? And remember, I was a state trooper. That was my first company. And I hired an experienced janitorial manager, right, to kind of help me out. And they'd have the clipboard, and they'd always be, going around making sure things were checked off and those type of things. I'm like, I don't think you're doing anything. Because I kind of go behind him like, well, I didn't get done. Just like I think he had that mentality like if I walk fast and I have a clipboard, then people think I'm busy and it don't bother me.
I think you're doing something, yeah.
Yeah. So.
What's kind of interesting is I think I probably wasn't as productive when I had a physical office with a bunch of people sitting in it, because I would walk over to the coffee machine and then, you're just like, hey, come here. Hey, what do you think of this? And we'd have these little chit chats. No, that's all. Some of it's like, a lot of it's useful stuff, but then there was also like, hey, want to play ping pong? Yeah, you don't have to ask me twice. Right. So there was also that side. So I think when I work on my own, there's no one to like, I just go, go. Right. And so it's I don't know. I don't know if I was always like this. I think it's just, I don't know if it's,
it's funny because James and I did the same thing at Finnegraph. He just pop in the office, sit down in the chair. Like it doesn't matter what I was doing. I mean, he's CEO at the time. So I was like, he would just pop in. So I've got to do what he wants to do, or vice versa. Hey, come down to the office, and he's got a whiteboard and we go through something. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of distraction, right? Yep. There was one person that worked there that I thought just stared out the window. Like I've only seen you stare out the window.
I think that would just be like a painful day for me. Like I couldn't have nothing.
Can you imagine?
I just couldn't do it. I couldn't, like, it just drive me batty. I don't think I'm employable anymore, man. I don't think anyone could hire me because I don't think I'd make a good employee anymore.
Hey, there's two types of people that folks won't hire, right? One is somebody moving right from being a business owner for that reason, because they don't think that you're controllable, or that you'll take direction, or that more than them or otherwise. So yeah,
I will not take direction well.
Hey, believe it or not, moving from being a police officer to a regular job is equally as hard. Because people are like, you really don't have any skills. You're not going to sit at a computer and to design something or whatever. Like, it's one of those things that's super hard. And I even had the mentality at one point in time, like going, you probably need a buffer job. When you come out of being a police officer, out of the military, you need kind of a buffer job before you get your career job. And the buffer job is an acclimation from the rigidity of a military or a quasi-military organization, because if you're late to work in the military, there's a lot of disciplinary action that happens, right?
Yeah.
They take pay. They, restrict you to your quarters. I mean, it's just on and on and on. Things you can do to a soldier that you cannot do, to a civilian, to a regular person. The way that you talk to each other is different. A directive from a commander in the highway patrol or the military is different than a suggestion from a CEO, even though they both have an equal amount of weight. They don't feel like they have the same weight when you hear them.
Mm-hmm. It's funny because, owning my own business, you technically, you have sort of all the freedom in the world. You technically get sort of do anything you want outside of, I guess, making sure that your client work is done right. But I know, when I had an office full of people, I always wanted to be the first one there. I'd make coffee. They'd complain it's too strong. I'd laugh because I like strong coffee. And I always wanted to be the last one leaving. But same thing is usually I sprint through. By the end of the day, I'm exhausted, but I'd be sitting there okay, guys, look at the clock, time to go home, because I wanted to be the last one out too. And so technically you have the freedom, but mentally I didn't have the freedom. Mentally, I had that sort of heightened, I don't know, whatever, responsibility or whatever. And you know what? I don't think anyone would even notice if I wasn't the first one in, the last one to leave. They would probably come in and make coffee and they wouldn't complain about it. But it was just mentally in my mind. That's how I operated. I couldn't see any other way. Right.
All right. So what do you think about Google's policy of the 20% time? And if you don't know what that is, it's Google, they almost mandate that 20% of your working hours are spent on personal projects, right? So, if you're there for 10 hours, 2 of those hours are on your own personal projects. And it's been documented that Gmail and Google Maps came from those personal projects.
Interesting.
So for them, Google's original thing was, let's let you break from the rigidity of your job and let you create. And of course, it comes back to them in the form of good product.
Comes back to them
maybe
form of IP, right? So, yeah.
Well, yeah, but they paid for it.
No, I get that.
just don't do it at work if you want to keep it to yourself.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah.
So, but what about that idea to give employees the opportunity to daydream, to, whatever it is, X amount of hours per day?
Well, there's something's tickling in the back of my brain here about an article that I think I maybe talked about a little bit on the show. Could have been 2 years ago. I can't remember when. But something is telling me that I read an article that said 80%, and this wasn't doing 20% of other stuff. It was just 80% productivity was the ultimate level. If you try and get anything more than that, I don't know what it is. You start to fatigue people, or they start to get distracted or whatever. Any less, if you try and get people to do overtime, everything is not effective. It's 80% was this. You want 80%. I can't remember the context of it exactly, and
you and I talked about it.
But yeah,
no, you and I talked about it because I was talking about the guidance for utilization rates, right? When you're forecasting for the future, say 80% is kind of the max that you can get out of productivity, and part of it was because there's 2,080 hours in a year. You're only going to get about 1,800 hours of productivity out of a person.
Yeah.
If you just look at just from a mathematical standpoint, let alone the emotional or psychological standpoint that it may imply, you just can't do it because you got paid time off, you got training, you got administrative hours, you got sick day, whatever it is. You can only count on somebody to be at their best and produce revenue for you about 80% of the time. And I use 75% in my service-based companies because I know there was also that, right? Where you got people who are just like going, need a mental break to get out of it. So that's a forecasting technique. Now, you could probably heard about it somewhere else, but I know we've talked about it on this show.
Yeah, like I know there was, I wish I could find it because there was some article that I went, that's kind of interesting. I know back in when I had a creative agency, I think I would ask the staff where it was basically like, I need 75% of your time. It's between 75 and 80% of your time, like fully dialed in out of a week. Like, give me this many hours, absolutely dialed in. But I know when I budgeted, I always did 70. I didn't tell anyone that, but I did 70 because I basically also gave, like when you're bidding those things, you're building those things and everything, it's like multiple little buffers were really important. Multiple little overages, like you're just always building those little padding in, because if you tried to do it exact, you'd lose your shirt. So it would be like, okay, I need them to do this, but I'm billing it on 70. I need them to be this much, but I'm billing it on or estimating on this. I need an overage of 15% buffer. I need and I need my profit margin. And you build all of these things in to try and account for these variances, right?
All right, let me clear up what I think you just said. You would bid the job at 1,000 hours, but you would tell the team the budget for the job was 700 hours.
No, there's multiple levels in there. So I might go to the team and say, guys, we got 750 hours, but I would say 700 hours. But then I would in different gaps and setups, ultimately I might actually bid 1,000 hours, but I would be like, we need wiggle room. Overall, I need a 15% buffer. And then I need a profit margin in here. And then when I go to the team, I would say, I need this many hours. And then I would internally, from the team number of hours, I would actually budget below that. So it's like I had little mini buffers all the way through, to make sure that by the time you're done, you're profitable. You've covered your ass for some of the overages that you can't necessarily bill. Some of them you can. Some of them you can get. They're charged. We used to call them chargeable offenses, right? But there's a lot that aren't, and so you have to build all those little buffers in, right?
Interesting. Yeah, I always try to do that. But I mean, it's almost like when we had a board of directors, we always had an operational budget, the budget that we were working on, but then we had a board budget, which was usually a little bit lower than the team's budget. And what I mean by that is, even if the team missed, you still had the best opportunity to hit your board budget, right? Your investor's budget.
Just give yourself some padding, right? Yeah.
Got it. So when I kind of did a little bit of research on this topic, the best example I came up with of somebody that really took advantage of their procrastination time was during her breaks. Just like she'd take breaks from her traditional job, and I forget what the job is now, but the traditional job, she took breaks, she'd go get a cup of coffee, and she wrote a book. And the book she wrote during her breaks was Harry Potter. So that's a good, that changed your life, right? So sometimes that little bit of a break, a little bit of clarity. She was probably terrible at her other job because she was totally focused on the other. Who knows? But think about it, all the things.
Yeah.
Gravity, right? Gravity, Harry Potter, Google Maps or Gmail, all came out of just break from work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My only recommendation is just find what works for you. For me, it's a bike. If I get out on a bike, it can be helpful. But it's also taking the time and recognizing that. And I recognized the other day that it's somehow different where I felt like I should have been working, but I didn't. And then I got on my bike and that sort of did something. And it reminded me that, you know what, it wouldn't be the worst thing that once or twice a week if I actually took an hour and just like hopped on a bike, like during the work day where my brain is still on sprint mode, and see what happens. Because I think I tend to be the opposite. I get in here and just like I said, if I didn't have the record player to go stand up every once in a while, and it's not like that's going all day, every day. Like it's not, because so many times I have meetings and everything else. Right. But it's the only thing that gets me up sometimes. So.
Yeah. So the title of the show was I Should Be Working, But, and what I'm learning is I think it's natural to take a mental break somehow, right? It's natural. And who knows, you might come up with the next fiddle hopper that the country needs, that the world needs.
Knock that one in.
But, all right. So if you've listened this long, you should be listening for our hidden words. There's 2 hidden words that we try to get into every single episode. One is fiddle hopper. The other is
sticking to your knitting.
Sticking to your knitting. And if we were keeping score on today's episode, Mike got 2, Blaine got 0.
You were up 2-0, and I almost snuck in the fiddle hopper. I was waiting, and then I totally got distracted and forgot. So I had a spot. Anyway.
So anyway, but here's some of the rules on it. You can't force it. When you force it, we're going to call you out for forcing it.
Yeah,
can't be forced.
You gotta slide it in, yeah.
You got to slide it in. But hey, this is episode 179. We're going to hit one of those round numbers next week, 180. But I really appreciate you. 2025 is going pretty well. Now, some people are not saying that. If you look across, I saw some statistics today, as a matter of fact, that there's some folks saying, hey, it's starting off a little slow for them. So don't be discouraged, because the outlook is really positive on what's going to happen in small business this year. So stick to it.
Yeah, like just hang in, because I've been hearing the same thing, and I know businesses are still a lot of struggle out there, but it feels like the tide is finally turning after a number of years of pressure and pushback. So hang in there. It's one of the biggest things to help a business be successful is nothing more than just hanging in until your day comes.
There you go. I'm Mike Mylan. That is Blaine Birch. You've been listening to Mike and Blaine, Business, Beer, and BS. And what can they do next?
Make sure you go to mikeandblaine.com. Buy us a beer. You can be one of our valued sponsors. We'll mention you in the show. And also subscribe, like, follow. Any way you can support the show, we really, really do appreciate it.
Check out their website at mikeandblaine.com. Then subscribe to the podcast and buy these guys a beer.